I was playing Skyrim the other day and it dawned on me for the first time that the Forsworn are utterly absurd. Skyrim has its fair share of wacky lore, from undead queens to floating squid monsters. The Forsworn seem quite tame by comparison, a ragtag bunch of primitive terrorists hugging the Reach's many crags and caves. But when you take just a moment to think about the Forsworn, what they stand for, their society, where they choose to place their bases, they start to seem very strange. The Forsworn have no less than 23 bases in the Reach. Each of these bases houses anything from 6 to multiple dozens of Forsworn warriors. Most Nordic towns and villages in the Reach boast a guard of just 3 or 4, whilst the regional capital, Markarth, although guarded by imposing walls, has roughly 2 to 3 dozen guards. Hundreds of Forsworn roam the Reach, both in and outside of their encampments, and some of them, including Briarhearts and Hagravens, are incredibly powerful. So what's baffling is that the Forsworn haven't yet taken the Reach for their own. Lost Valley Redoubt is the largest Forsworn base. Here's a quick overview to give you a sense of quite how big it is. I'm pretty sure that the warriors in this formidable base alone could take on the Markarth city guard, whom themselves are hardly the cream of the crop. The Forsworn live and breathe battle. The mantra of their existence is that an easy life isn't worth living. It seems paradoxical then that they sit in their hideouts chilling, failing to attack the Nords, whom they detest so much, even though victory is almost guaranteed. To illustrate my point, using console commands, I've put 20 Forsworn warriors, with a few Briarhearts mixed in the heart of Markarth, and here's what happens. As you can see, although the Forsworn are at a disadvantage because the Markarth guards spawn in 3s infinitely, they make pretty easy work of most of the city guard, and this is with a fraction of the force they'd actually be able to command in a siege of the city. Practically speaking, the layout and positioning of some of the Forsworn bases baffles me. Nestled in most of the Reach's valleys, crags and caves, you'll find some sort of Forsworn encampment. Some are befitting of a guerrilla organisation, small, hidden encampments. Others are bizarre. Take the Forsworn encampment at the base of Karthspire, the mountain that is the home of the Blade's Temple. Why on earth would anyone build a wooden base on top of a mighty fast-flowing river? Sure, have bases either side of the river and link them up with a bridge, but why actually build structures on the river itself, particularly when it's wood that you're working with? And I thought that the Forsworn wanted to hide as best as they could from the sight of Nords, so why would they build a camp that can be seen from 50 miles away? This is a relatively minor point, but something I've noticed in many Forsworn camps is the idiotic placement of fires. Often they're right next to wooden structures or inside tents, a fire hazard if ever I've seen one. The fact that the Forsworn are the dominant enemy in the Reach is simply poor or lazy game design. If you side with Mardanark and help him and the Forsworn break out from Markarth prison, the Forsworn across the Reach, save for one base, continue to be hostile to you. I assume that this is the case because if the Forsworn all suddenly became friendly, then there would be no enemies for the Dragonborn to battle across the region. Bethesda would have done better to make the Forsworn a smaller faction who you could genuinely join and have a more diverse set of enemies you could do battle with across the Reach. Another bizarre thing I've noticed about the Forsworn is their convoluted hierarchy. There seem to be 3 figures of authority within Forsworn society. You have the political head, a monarch. In the time of Skyrim, this is Mardanark, who the player can choose to help free from Markarth prison. Then you have the Briarhearts, fearsome warriors and leaders whose hearts have been exchanged for Briarhearts. In this exchange they gain superhuman strength and agility, but lose their sense of humanity. Then you have the Hagravens. Hagravens are often located at the back or the zenith of Forsworn bases, signifying that they are the prominent leaders. However, of this I'm not so sure. Briarhearts are often the ones sat in a camp's throne, and given the fact that hagravens seem unable to utter more than a few guttural words, I'm guessing that they don't make great commanders. My guess is that hagravens are revered as spiritual figures, figureheads perhaps, whilst Briarhearts are responsible for the day-to-day running of the camps. Hagravens are themselves fantastically horrible inventions. As I understand it, they are witches who have traded their humanity for greater power, and it seems that they've managed to ingratiate themselves into Forsworn society by offering their services as magical surgeons and spiritual leaders in return for veneration and protection. The religion of the Forsworn is mysterious and baffling at first glance. Madanach speaks of the old gods, whilst the sacrificed animals littering Forsworn encampments is suggestive of an animist paganism. However, although the Forsworn might use a different lingo and practices compared to the other peoples of Tamriel, the gods they worship are not really that unique. When you dig into it, it turns out that two gods dominate their pantheon, Hircine and Ymira, both prominent Daedric princes. Hircine the Forsworn considered to be the lord of the world of the flesh, the living world, whilst Ymira is sovereign over the spiritual world. Peryite seems to be mixed into their pantheon too, whom the Forsworn consider the Great Leveller. Peryite, through his diseases, is an agent for restoring natural order. So although the religion of the Forsworn may appear absurd and unique at first, religion is perhaps the least absurd thing about the Forsworn. Their belief patterns aren't so different from those of the Dunmer or other Daedra worshipping peoples. I think that replaying a video game that you've played a lot of after an extended period of time is always an interesting thing. Concepts and ideas you've taken for granted for so long appear more questionable, whilst you yourself are willing to ask more questions because you're not caught up in the heat of the story. It's often on the second or third time playing a game that you might think, wait, does that really make any sense? In my case, it's taken a number of playthroughs I dare not even count to realise that the Forsworn are quite an absurd faction. Let me know what you think. Are the Forsworn as logical as you first thought? If there are any other absurd facts you wish to share, then please leave them in the comments section below. Also, please feel free to leave any suggestions for future videos, be they about Skyrim, Starfield or The Witcher 3, in the comments below too. Thanks again, and I'll see you all in the next one.